Hi, I'm just making this video by way of apology to the Holly Greig and her family, that in my the two videos I made yesterday, well, it was on Friday actually, I'd spelt her name, the surname, wrong. You know, I'm really sorry about that. I didn't mean, I hope that, you know, you didn't take it as an offence or ignorance on my part, in the sense, well, I do suffer from dyslexia, and actually the spelling Greig, as it with a double G, is a spelling that's very familiar in my mind for the spelling of the pronunciation of that name. And especially you know, I've got a friend whose name is Greig, spelt double G. And also in Sheffield, well, a lot of South Yorkshire, there's a chain of stores that are called Greig, and that's spelt with a double G, and that was the spelling that was in my mind when I made this video. And in my haste, you know, I was at the time very upset. It was the early hours of the morning that I was sent a link by a Twitter friend who's called Where's the Outrage, which is a very appropriate title, because indeed, where is the outrage? And I really was very deeply disturbed and outraged to discover that the you know, a senior BBC director had stepped in and stopped BBC and a BBC investigative team from continuing in a programme that covered the Holly Greig case, and also during which of their investigations they'd uncovered other cases as well. And then to find that this has been totally ignored, and I was immediately moved to, you know, to make a video about it, to share the information. And then still so incensed that after that, you know, I did ring the BBC up, and the lady I spoke to, absolutely lovely lady, obviously genuinely concerned herself. And I do really feel for a lot of the staff and BBC employees who do feel powerless because they can't speak out on their own, because they will just get ostracised. You know, they'll end up losing the job, and you know what's in line for them, queuing up at a food bank, losing their homes. So, you know, this austerity, economic terrorism that they're on with at the moment has really got everybody over a barrel. And the whole point of why people like myself speak out is because it is a serious problem. It's a problem that's been ignored and ignored and ignored. It was never going to go away. The criminals of authority are not going to investigate and arrest themselves. They will they will put themselves into every position of public power and authority available, and they will abuse those positions to keep certain issues silenced and certain people silenced. Okay? And the very fact that people like myself, just ordinary members of the public who ourselves are struggling, you know, like myself, I am dyslexic, I've got a speech impediment, you know, I do have to deal with PTSD. Okay, but you know, it seems it's down to us, it's down to the British public to alert people, to share the news, because, you know, why hasn't this been covered by The Guardian? Why haven't any mainstream media's been picking up on the fact that a senior BBC director stepped in and stopped Mark Daly and the Panorama team from, you know, making a programme about Holly Greig and also exposing other cases too. And, you know, it is really, really serious. But it has also highlighted a problem now for me, you know, a separate problem, is this zealotry around spelling. You know, like, for example, this video, it's had 89 views, it's had 45 dislikes and 6 likes. So if this is a reflection of the public consciousness, the British public consciousness, then basically what it's telling me is that people are more outraged by the misspelling of somebody's name than they are about the content and the crimes that's exposed here. Okay? And even they're not heartened by the fact that, yes, this is evidence of how BBC staff are not complicit and how they do need us to ask questions, so then they can ask a question. Then they've got a legitimate reason for asking questions, haven't they, when the public's telephoning and asking them questions and expressing concerns. That empowers them then to go and ask a question. Because if they start doing that on their own, well, they're at risk, aren't they? And that was the whole point why I made the video. As an example, this is what people need to do. I asked the question, why are people paying their licence fee to an organisation whose senior management are directly complicit in either participating in paedophilia, pedosadism, or covering up, and even employing other known pedosadists, because that's what's been going on. And it, you know, it really does disturb me, because it's just more evidence of this strain at the gnat swallow a camel society that everybody appears to blithely accept as normality, when in actual fact there's nothing normal about Britain at all in this world. You know, Europe is really a minority. There's less than 1 billion people here. The majority of the people in this world are living in abject poverty. They've got no rights whatsoever. They've got no access to healthcare, clean water. They've not got adequate shelter. They're working like slaves in their own native lands. And exactly, you know, exactly the same's happening to people in Britain. It's just that here, people are getting better fodder, aren't they? They get more of a choice. But even that is being dwindled away. You know, nurses are having to rely on food banks. Working people, especially people on 0-hour contracts, who are suddenly told, oh, don't come in for the next few days, the machines are broken down. Suddenly they're queuing up outside a food bank. Oh, isn't it wonderful that there's food banks available? So people are denied even a choice about what they're going to eat. And it is a lot of it due to the fact that people will focus. You know, they do strain at gnats. They strain at gnats. I've got friends on Facebook. It's always deeply disturbed me that, you know, somebody will share a post, they'll write something exposing a really serious issue, asking for help, asking questions, asking for support on that issue, and underneath half the comments will be, you know, going on about how the person hasn't spelt this or that correctly, and, you know, they need to go back and learn how to punctuate. And it's academic zealotry. it like reminds me very similar to religious zealotry, where, you know, somebody's innate goodness can be ignored because they've made one error. And the amount of errors that the BBC are making right now, they are absolutely abominable. It is alarming that a senior director at the BBC is stepping in and preventing our journalists from investigating people who commit crimes against children and even identifying victims who need help. But, you know, let's ignore all of that. Let's ignore all of that and let's just be outraged about the fact that the person that's alerting you to this has made an error in spelling. Okay? I mean, personally, I don't... It really doesn't bother me what people think of me. Okay? Because I didn't make this for me. Like I say, it outrages me. And it is outrageous that, you know, I have to be up early hours of the morning looking at this, feeling all upset about it, phoning up the BBC. Why? Why? Because our mainstream media isn't covering it. They're covering it as far as historical crimes go, aren't they? But we know that there's a blackout on what's going on now. And so, yeah, it is left down to, you know, the caring and compassionate members of the public. But it seems to me, according to this, the majority of the public out there, whether it be in Britain or the global public, as this guy says, you know, Ronald Bernard, their conscience is in the deep freeze. Okay, what this guy has to say, everybody needs to listen to him. What myself and many other people who've done the research and looked at the evidence already know. Our worst suspicions confirmed, and now we have a witness to give testimony to those confirmations. And he tells it like it is about the financiers, the handful of financiers that run the whole world, including terrorist organisations, that even the terrorist organisations that are fighting against each other don't know that it's the same puppet masters pulling their strings, because it all flows on money. At the root of it all is the money. Follow the money. Now he explains that before he was you know, as he was being invited into these higher levels of financial services, he was told that he needed to put his conscience in the deep freeze, that it was a waste of time him even going there unless he could put his conscience in the deep freeze. And he was told not minus 60, it's got to be minus 100. And he talks about how the group that he was working with, they'd crashed the Italian lira, and they were all having a laugh about the fact that one Italian business owner had been driven to suicide and had left a family behind. And where did he draw the line when he was invited to take part in ritual sacrifice of a child? Okay, and you know, as I say, that is the reality. But Britain's conscience is in the deep freeze at the moment, and we need to thaw out. Okay, and yes, we're not all perfect. We do make errors, but at the end of the day, one error does not discount for the 99.9% of everything else that's 100% correct, okay, in its honesty and in its truth. And you know, a world that's in the deep freeze, this is the kind of thing that we are inflicting, okay, the consciousness that's calling itself humanity, which isn't a consciousness at all. It's a programmed construction. It's an ego, a hollow ego, because we all have an ego. But if an ego is not rooted in our humanity of compassion, understanding, intelligence, respect for the law, respect for our rights and the rights of others, then it's a deadly threat. The human ego is a deadly threat, and we are living in an ego-tripping world. And this ego trip is what the Western consciousness is filled with, basically. This is an absolute reflection of the Western consciousness, just full of manufactured crap. And it is time to get away from the manufactured crap and the academic zealotry, and it's time to accept true intelligence, because true intelligence is compassion. Okay? Accept our compassion. We've got to take our conscience. Britain needs to take its conscience out of the deep freeze. And, you know, to all those people who don't like me, well, no, you won't like me. Any ego, hollow ego, will not like me. I am a threat. Okay? Because my reality bursts your egotistical, hollow, egotistical bubble. And it is no different, really, if you go to the doctor and he says that you think you're perfectly healthy and you're told, no, actually, you're really seriously ill. Are you going to punch the doctor in the face? Are you going to hate the doctor? No, the whole point of going to the doctor is to get a diagnosis and then hopefully to get help and be cured, get treatment. And, you know, so all the people who dislike me, I dislike you. Okay, I dislike your ignorance. I dislike your lack of compassion. I dislike your stupidity. I dislike your judgmental attitude. I dislike your deceit, greed, jealousy, hatred. I dislike your apathy. All those things I dislike. But I don't hate you. Okay? I love your humanity. My efforts, and the efforts of lots of people addressing the issues, are to liberate you into your humanity, so you become a whole human being. And part of becoming a whole human being is learning not to strain at gnats and in order to swallow camels. Okay? And maybe be alert. If your consciousness is alerting you to a gnat, understand that's part of the programming. That's part of the state programming. So resist the urge to strain at the gnat. Let it go. Even though you find it really irritating because that's the way your mind's been programmed to be, let the gnat go and have a good look at that camel and take steps not to swallow it. Okay? Understand that it's a threat to our children. Understand it is a threat to the life of our planet. Understand what needs to be done. what we need to do. Act. We need to act. And as I say, phoning up the BBC, yes, do it. Send them an email. Empower the staff at the BBC. Empower them to ask questions on your behalf. Yes, there will be gatekeepers in among them, because they do put them in. But at the end of the day, we are fighting a battle here. We're fighting a battle, and as sorry, I've not got his link up. As Ronald says, the Dutch financier, his conscience, his deep freeze malfunctioned. Okay? His deep freeze malfunctioned. It is time for our deep freeze to malfunction. His deep freeze malfunctioned at the point where he was asked to participate in ritual slaughter of a child. Okay? And that is where we are at now. That is what we are being faced with. That is what we are being asked to ignore. But no, instead, let's get really angry and outraged about a spelling mistake and take it as an offence. Okay? Well, I am offended by the level of offence over a spelling mistake and the absolute lack of offence about serious crimes being committed against our children and by people who are in positions of absolute authority and power. And yes, you may think that I am your worst enemy, those who dislike me, but actually, one day, hopefully you'll realise that I am actually your best friend.